Today we're going to be talking about whether or not you need to calculate your calories. Now, if you want to lose fat, then you want to be burning more calories than you consume, which is known as a caloric deficit. Whereas if you want to build muscle, then you should be in a caloric surplus, which is consuming more calories than you burn per day. And can someone be in a deficit or a surplus of calories without calculating, without counting the calories? The answer is yes, of course they can. And that's why you have probably met many individuals who have lost a lot of fat and they actually don't calculate their calories. They don't count their calories. And likewise, you've probably met many people who have built a good physique, they've built muscle for themselves, and they never went into calorie counting. And therefore, it shows that you can make results without counting your calories. However, that doesn't negate, that doesn't change the fact that that individual was in a caloric deficit if that person lost fat, period. It's just like, the gravity does exist for me to be standing in there, my feet to be on the ground right now. I don't necessarily know how exactly it may work, but it's in practice. Likewise, one may not have known what a caloric deficit even is, but he lost weight, which means that he was in a caloric deficit regardless of whether he knew or not. In other words, it is scientifically compulsory to be in a caloric deficit to lose fat. And it is highly optimal to be in a caloric surplus to build muscle. So if they didn't calculate their calories, if they did not count their calories, yet they still lost fat or they still built muscle, then this means that they were in a caloric deficit or a caloric surplus for the guy who's building muscle by chance. Saying by chance isn't me discrediting those individuals who saw results without counting the calories. I'm sure that they worked extremely hard. However, what I am saying is that if you want to know for absolute certainty whether you are in a caloric deficit when you're trying to lose fat, or you're in a caloric surplus when you're trying to build muscle, then the only way to know for absolute certainty is by counting your calories. Now also, just being in a caloric deficit when you're trying to lose fat actually may not be that hard. It may be pretty simple if you think about it. Just eliminate or just don't fall into all your cravings of bad food, and just make sure that you're eating as healthy as possible and low calorie food as possible, fruit and vegetables and so forth, and perhaps you will be in a caloric deficit. And for being a caloric surplus, you could literally just eat as much as you possibly can eat, and then you're most probably going to be in a caloric surplus. But have you considered that you may be under eating or overeating? This is where the problem can occur. So let's say that someone is trying to lose fat. So they restrict themselves as much as possible, and hey, maybe they'll say, actually, you know what, I actually don't feel hungry, I actually feel full, and I don't feel that I'm restricting myself so much. But they actually are making very good results. And then later on, we want to calculate their calories, and let's say they've only been eating like 1,000 calories or even fewer than that. Yes, obviously many people probably wouldn't feel that satisfied on those calories, but there may be some people who are, and they don't realize they're eating that less. And what's the issue with that? If they're seeing results, the issue is that eating too less is not something that is healthy. It's not going to do your metabolism any good either. And on the other hand, when someone might be trying to build muscle, so they decide, I'm going to eat in a caloric surplus, I'm just going to eat as much as I can, that's the wrong attitude. Because to build muscle, you don't need to eat as much as you can. You just need to be in enough of a caloric surplus. Meaning, you need to give your body only about 5 to 10% calories more than it burns per day. And that will be enough to build muscle, because when you're doing that, when you go ahead and try and build muscle, you are going to gain some fat at the expense of building muscle. So in other words, if you eat in too big of a caloric surplus, you're going to be gaining way more excess fat than you need to. And let's say also that you are trying to lose fat or you're trying to build muscle and you're not seeing the kind of progress that you want to see. So now it's time to do what? It's time to change things up. So when it comes to changing things up, obviously there's numerous things you can do, such as increasing your activity, doing an extra workout session or whatever the case may be, add sets, reps, so on and so forth. But there's also one thing that you can do that is simpler, which is adjusting your caloric intake. You're not losing weight, okay, perhaps I should reduce 100 calories. Instead of just intuitively saying, I'm just going to eat a little bit less, because that's not really anything that is as trackable or manageable. So if you are in that scenario, you're in that position where it's time to change things, but you haven't been calculating your calories in the first place, now it's going to be harder to know exactly how to adjust. So for the reasons mentioned now, such as, you know, when you are in like a plateau or you need to change things up, when you may, the case of perhaps overeating or undereating, and as well as knowing for absolute certainty, having that clarity that you know what you're doing is going to bring results. For these different reasons, I would recommend, highly recommend, for one, to learn how to count their calories. It may seem difficult in the beginning, and that's why many people shy away from it. And that's why you have many different other methods, such as the, portion size method, and you have other things where, or you also on the other extreme just have fad diets where you just cut out a whole food group. But you see, all of them, what their main goal or objective is to basically put you in a caloric deficit if you're trying to lose fat, whether you know it or whether you don't. So therefore, to conclude, what is the best way of ensuring that you just get in that deficit in the first place? Just calculate your calories and make sure that you're in a deficit, rather than going around in circles by trying to do different things to put yourself in one. Just go directly to the source, calculate your calories, learn how to do so, and trust me, it's going to save you a lot of time and wasted, basically, effort and energy. It will pay off in the long run, I promise. I'll see you guys next time.